Hey everybody, my name is Brian Nichols. Welcome back to another one of my reaction videos for MMA events. Today's video is for UFC Fight Night, Jessica I versus Cynthia Calvillo. This took place on Saturday, June 13th, 2020. And it's been about, I'd say, about an hour since it finished. I had to do some things before I could make the video. But overall, let's see. I would give the event probably a 6 or a 7. I'd say it definitely could have been better, obviously. A lot of people were poo-pooing the card right from the get-go, but there's a couple gems here and there, and I think I counted out of the 10 fights on the card, 5 of them were finishes, so, you know, half finishes, half not. It's pretty cool. But, I mean, even fights that aren't finishes are pretty good, too, which we'll talk about. So we had 10 fights on the card. Again, the main event being Jessica I versus Cynthia Calvillo. Before I go any further, if for some reason you don't know the results, and you haven't watched the fights yet, I recommend go watch them or look up the results if you're wanting to watch this video and then come back because spoilers are ahead. So without further ado, let's get into the spoilers and let's talk about the card. All right. So main event, we had Cynthia Calvillo defeating Jessica I. Unanimous decision over a 5-round main event, which I think going the distance for is new for both fighters. First of all, wow. What an opportunity for Cynthia Calvillo. Let's talk about the opportunity she had here. Number one, she went up a weight class from strawweight to featherweight. She was ranked, I looked it up, 10th in strawweight, but when she moved up to the strawweight division, she fought number 1, Jessica I. She won, and she won really well. And now she's in possible contention for the title shot. It's like, holy shit! Like I've been trying to think. Like, I'm sure there's somebody. There's somebody that had to have went from, because you know there's a lot of fighters now that are going from their current division to like the next division up. We even see some fighters going down, but I can't really think off the top of my head of a fighter that moved to a different division. I mean, of course, we have, you know, the GSPs and the champions, but somebody that's like ranked 10th. I don't know if I don't Cynthia's never had a title shot that I can think of, and at least in the UFC. And I don't know if she's ever been really top 5. Maybe she has, and I don't know. But looking at strawweight with her being ranked 10th, she's ranked 10th. Jumped to flyweight, fought the first person, beat the first person, did really well, and now is possible chance to fight the winner between. I think the next fight for Shevchenko is Joanne Calderwood, if I remember correctly. I don't know if that was confirmed. I haven't looked. But she's next for Cynthia Calvillo is next for that. Who wins between that? Now, don't get me wrong. Calvillo looked good. I don't think she's going to beat Valentina. Like I feel like Calvillo's best shot is on the ground. But Shevchenko is a beast on the ground. There's no way she could stand with Shevchenko striking-wise. On the ground, maybe. I don't even know if she'll be able to take Shevchenko to the ground. Just Shevchenko is just so far ahead of past these other women in strawweight. It's crazy. Which then goes to show that Amanda Nunes has beat her twice. Granted, you can kind of question some of the judging, but it's insane. So let's talk about the main event. I actually took some notes during the card, so let's go over my notes real quick. First round. I talk about this a lot. I think I've talked about this in my previous videos, but I've talked about it with some of my MMA friends is why is head kicks, I feel like, underutilized when it comes to women's MMA. Like, think about women's physiques and anatomy versus men and things like that and the comparison. And obviously, I think even the statistics back this up is that there's not as many finishes when it comes to women's MMA. And there's probably more submissions than KO/TKOs. So KO TKO is even less. But I'll tell you what, to use head kicks, I feel like to utilize head kicks is a underutilized technique in women's MMA. And for example, when I was at the Vegas card with my buddies to see the John Jones versus Thiago Santos card, and I don't know if you recall, but the co-main event was Amanda Nunes versus Holly Holm. And a couple fights before that, I was talking to my buddy and telling him about Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, how they Holly Holm used the head kick versus Betch Correia. she did against Ronda Rousey, and I was like, dude, I'm telling you, women's MMA needs to utilize head kicks more, because to be honest, how many women other than other than Amanda, other than Cyborg, that you can say she's knocking chicks out? Like, you don't hear that much, but at least with strikes. When it comes to head kicks, you got Holly, you got Rose with Karate Hottie. Granted, it kind of knocked her down, that led it to the choke, to the rear naked choke finish. But Holly had multiple head kick KOs. Anyways, I'm telling my buddy that, and then that night, Amanda gets the head kick KO with on Holly Holm. So to get back to this fight with Cynthia Calvillo, I saw her throw 2 head kicks. I was like, oh shit, maybe she can catch her with a head kick. But Jessica I was kind of catching it, so she kind of stopped doing it later in the fight, and I don't know why. I don't know if maybe Cynthia hurt her foot, or her leg. But the other thing I noticed was Jessica I wasn't moving her head very much in that very first round, so I think that's why the head kick was catching her really well, as well as some of the strikes Calvillo was throwing. But yeah, I liked the head kick route. There was only 2 of them, but I liked it, and Cynthia was actually feinting a lot, which was really good too. But other than those 2 head kicks, it was basically just a boxing round for the first round. Kind of a close round, but I give it to Calvillo, so 1-0 her. Second round, great hits by Jessica I. Cynthia went to go in for the takedown, and Jessica sprawled, was able to block that, but then Cynthia followed up and was able to get the takedown in the second attempt. She just kept chaining the techniques and was able to get Jessica I down. And I want to say it was about a minute and 30 seconds in, if I remember correctly. Yes. About a minute and 30 in, maybe a minute 20, and took her down. But they were only on the ground for a minute, and Jessica I just kind of basically held 2-on-1 on Cynthia's on her wrist, so she couldn't do anything. So nothing really happened damage-wise there. So that was interesting. And then, so overall, I thought it was a good round for Cavillo, so I gave it 2-0. Third round, I feel like I basically did the most damage. There wasn't a lot of damage, because this is the one where Cavillo took it to the ground and but didn't do much. So I feel like I gave that round Jessica I, so now it's 2-1 Calvillo. Fourth round, I want to say her corner said don't throw kicks, and then she threw a kick, and she got taken down pretty quick. And when Jessica I was taken down, the only thing she knew to do was 2-on-1. That's all she could do. And I was like, in the new rules of the states and locations that have actually adopted the new rules, damage is the indicator of a winner when it goes to the judges. And granted, when Cynthia had her arm wrapped over and Jessica I was just holding out 2-on-1, there's no damage either way. But if you have to give it to somebody, if you can't count damage, you got to give it to Calvillo. So Jessica just kind of laying there really isn't doing much for her. So I feel like Jessica had to do something. I don't know if she had a jiu-jitsu coach in a corner or not, because I couldn't really hear. Maybe they were hollering it, and I couldn't hear it over the broadcast, hollering the instructions to Jessica, and she just wasn't complying. But she was just literally just holding on to it for dear life. So close round, because basically the entire first half of the round was just Calvillo just holding her down. And so I kind of, after they got up, I think I landed, of the minimal amount of damage, I think I landed the most. So I went 2-2 to round 4. And then round 5 again, I was like, why haven't Cynthia thrown any more head kicks? I was kind of baffled. And then towards the end of the round, of 5th round, I heard somebody call out Kevin Lee. I don't know what the hell that had anything to do with, but in the end, round 5, I think Calvillo pushed it and put more damage on Jessica I to cap it, so I gave it 3-2 Calvillo. Now, I think there were some judges, I think 2 judges gave it 4-1 to Cynthia, and 1 judge gave it to 3-2, but unanimous decision for Cynthia. So again, great fight for Cynthia. Unfortunately and fortunately, she's put in for a title shot, and let's see how that goes for her. But she's in the deep waters when it comes to flyweight. Welcome to flyweight. So, there's not much talent there to go through. I mean, you already fought number 1, so you're at the top. I saw Caitlin Chukagian, of course, on the broadcast was tweeting like, "Oh, I want that smoke." And I mean, you could totally run that back, but if I was Cynthia, hell no. I would just sit there. I just had a 5-round fight. I sit there, rest up, go get some more training in the gym, and wait for this Joanne Calderwood and assuming that's going to happen, and Shevchenko, wait whoever winner is that and take that. So, because they're not going to give a title shot to Caitlin. She just lost to Shevchenko, so nothing to do there. So, overall, okay main event. Not insane, but obviously we have a new title contender come out of that. So that was our main event. Co-main event, we have a submission rear naked choke. Marvin Vettori defeating Carl Roberson, 4 minutes and 17 seconds in round number 1. Marvin, I think I saw the tweets on the broadcast talking about how, like, anger, he let all his anger out of however many months. And I liked how after the fight, his post-fight conversation there with Paul Felder, he talked about how he hasn't had a beer since January. It's like, dude, the dude's thirsty. But it looked great for Marvin Vettori. Some of the notes I had here. When they were doing their striking, it was kind of back and forth, and then the scrambling ensued, and Carl Roberson was doing okay, but then Vettori just took over, and it was just a completely different ball game on the ground with the ground and pound with Marvin, and at one point I want to say on the broadcast it was Carl Roberson. I could hear him breathing really hard, and I was like, dude, if you're this tired, and it might have been like 3 minutes in, and you're like breathing that heavy, I felt like that was a bad sign. Maybe it was him, maybe it was Vettori, but I swear it was Roberson. And then Vettori, at one point just basically got on top and was just hitting him with a hammerfish, just kind of messing with him. And finally, Roberson opened up a little bit. Vettori stuck the arm under, got the arm up over the head, and then I think he had one hook in. And then when Roberson kind of went to the side, he was able to get his other hook in. And then there's nothing Carl could do other than tap. So great fight from Marvin. I feel like at middleweight, he definitely should probably have a number next to his name in the rankings and when the new rankings come out. And I think he should get a ranked opponent next. So great fight from Marvin. Next, number 8 fight on the card went to a split decision between Charles Rosa versus Kevin Aguilar. Honestly, I don't think Aguilar should have got any of the judges there. I think Rosa pretty much swept it. He did really well. I feel like Aguilar, some of the fights I've seen at Aguilar, he could have done way better. Aguilar fights way better than that. And it was interesting because Rosa was fighting, they were talking on the broadcast, doing the whole karate stance, which I don't think I've ever seen him do that before. And I even heard, like they said in the broadcast, they talked about calling out a Wonder Boy. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? And Rosa was doing a lot of keeping the distance because Kevin was pushing in, which I think that's his typical fighting style, is he pushes in and he's the pressure fighter. He initiates the strikes, the exchange, and in this case, Aguilar would be inching up, and then Rosa would swing, and Aguilar would try to counter that, but all those counters just weren't working, and Rosa was just dictating everything with the distance and the initiating of the exchange, and the counters of Aguilar just weren't working. Let's see, what other notes did I have here? I did like how Aguilar, he at first it was working. He would push in, Rosa would throw a jab, and Aguilar would get him over the top with the right hand. But I think that happened maybe once or twice. But after that, that didn't happen very much. What else here? Yeah. That's the other thing. Aguilar, I feel like Rosa was able to, again, dictate the distance and all that, but Aguilar, I feel like he could have done better if he would have actually cornered Rosa better, and he wasn't really cornering him. He was just kind of following him for the most part, which, I feel like Aguilar just kind of let Rosa dictate the fight, and that's how Rosa won. I feel like Aguilar could have done more, but hey, props to Rosa. He needed a win after that fight against, oh God, what's his name? He's our boy, Bryce Mitchell. Probably get that taste out of his mouth because that was an insane fight. So hey, good. Charles Rosa got another W on the board, and I'm sure he's good with that. So moving on, 7th fight. This was the a lot of people are like, ooh, don't leave it to the judges. There's fights where I want it to go to the judges, and sometimes even further. It's like this fight, Andre Fili versus Charles Air Jourdain, and Touchy Fili, dude. One of the top 3 nicknames in the UFC. It has to be Touchy Fili. Like, come on now. So that was a 3-round split decision for Andre Touchy Fili. what a great fight. Like, I think, if I remember correctly, Charles Jourdain actually dropped Andre Fili in the first round. So I gave Jourdain the first round, and I think the 2 rounds after that I gave Fili. So I think that's where the split decision was. Or no, it was split decision. So one judge gave it to Charles, and then 2 judges gave it to Fili. So, overall, I mean, it was a great fight. I know after the fight, Andre Fili was talking about how he's like, people think I'm a good fighter. And if you look at Andre Fili's record, I looked previously, he's on one of those streaks where he gets 2 wins and then he loses, gets 2 wins and he loses, and now he has this 1 win. And if you look at the people he's fighting, I mean, they're not bums. Like, looking at his, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, his last 8 fights, right? So he lost to Calvin Kattar, and he beat Artem Lobov, Dennis Bermudez, and then he lost to Michael Johnson, and then he beat Miles Jurdy and Shaman Moraes, and he lost to Sadiq Youssef, and now he beat Charles Jourdain. The dude, I feel like he's always getting better, but the only people he lost against was Michael Johnson, which is understandable, Sadiq Youssef, who is on fire right now, and then Calvin Kattar, who's also on fire. So, and then before that, he lost to Yair. So he's losing to really good people. So I feel like he definitely should be ranked in featherweight. Just featherweight is so stacked. Like, I know people talk about welterweight and lightweight, but dude, featherweight's stacked too. And bantamweight's coming up as well, but featherweight is pretty stacked. So great win for Andre Fili. I think he definitely should have a number next to his name next time the rankings come out. Let's see, what are the notes that I have here? Yeah, I had 1-1 going into the third, and then Fili was able to take it with the third round. I kind of tweeted about this. I was like, not only was this a great fight, the matchmaking here, like, they were matched so well. Even though if you look at their records, this would be Andre Fili's 28th fight versus Charles Jourdain's 13th fight. I mean, there's got to be a point in MMA fighters' careers where you can see, like, I don't want to say the crescendo, I don't know what the word is, but like after like 5 fights or 6 fights, they're finally coming into, I mean, obviously you're still learning and still getting better over time, but you almost kind of get set in your ways in a certain amount of fights. 13 has to be it. Like, if you have 3 fights, you're not ready for the pro levels at UFC, like still like the lower promotions, but in the UFC you're probably not ready with 3 fights, right? And then there's a fight down below, we'll talk about that. Anyways, great fight by Andre Fili, so awesome. Moving on, fight number 6 in order, starting from the beginning of the prelims. We have a unanimous decision, Jordan Espinoza defeating Mark De La Rosa. I feel like De La Rosa wasn't on his game today. De La Rosa is usually really good. He's either that or Espinoza is that good. He almost made Mark De La Rosa look like he shouldn't have been even in the cage with him. Espinoza looked really good. He was really quick. Also, those elbows against the cage on Mark De La Rosa kind of messed him up. I don't know. But after that first round, he definitely got a licking by his corner, and rightly so, about, what are you doing just holding one leg or trying to get the double leg or single leg, and the dude's just nailing you with elbows, and that happened was like 3 minutes straight. It was crazy. So, what else do I want to talk about here? Oh, do you guys notice? You remember the John Jones fight against Glover Teixeira? Do you remember at one point, and Glover actually, I think, talked about this afterwards, where John Jones had an underhook? Let's see, it would be an underhook with Jones's left arm under Glover Teixeira's right arm, and Jones was able to crank it, so Glover's arm went like this, and I think Glover said it kind of messed his arm up for a little while. And every time I see somebody do that, I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna crank it like Jones did against Glover Teixeira. And I saw Espinoza do that. He had the underhook like that, because the underhook is typically, I don't do I haven't done much MMA training of my own, but from what I've seen, they do the underhook under the pits, but they're doing it almost like this instead of like this. Instead of going under the pits and kind of like bringing them to you, you're kind of like putting your arm under the elbow and like bringing it to your body, and then you can almost do that, but nobody does it. Somebody needs to bring that back, because that looks nasty when people do that. Granted, I think I've only literally seen it once with Jones. Anyways, Espinoza looked good. Great win for him. Anything else I want to talk about there? No, I think that's it. Oh, De La Rosa, obviously his fucking game, like third round, I liked how his corner's like, dude, you need to fucking, if you want to win this, you need to go out there right now, because I agreed Espinoza was winning. And De La Rosa just came out. You could tell he was coming out to finish. Like, he knew he had to do something to finish that fight. But Espinoza was doing good about popping shots and circling and just, walking away with a win. So, great fight. Fifth fight in the card. To me, so here, let's talk about the results. Maria Agapova defeats Hannah Cifers first round, 2 minutes 42 seconds via submission of rear naked choke. If you want to talk about fighter of the night, or I'd say performance of the night, I would have to say Maria Agapova. She 100% like raw talent. You could tell she has something. Like, she has, I don't want to say the it factor, because we got to see more. We got to see her develop, because after this fight she's now 9-1. But her size at flyweight, like Hannah Cifers, she is now, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She lost to Angela Hill. She lost to, who was the other fight she just recently lost to? Let me look. It was Mackenzie Dern. So she lost to Angela Hill, Mackenzie Dern, and Maria Agapova. 3 losses in a row. Sucks, but I'll tell you what, when I was like, okay, let's see how Hannah Cifers does at flyweight, moving up from strawweight. If you're fighting girls like that, number one, that are that almost athletically gifted and talented. Also, I don't know what boxing credentials she has, but they were saying in the broadcast she had some. But she looked huge against Hannah Cifers, and Hannah just, I don't think she just couldn't deal with it. And let's see. What else did I notice here? Yeah, she was super rangy, lanky. She was good with distance. She was switching up her techniques a lot. Like, there was just so many, almost like John Jones-esque, where there was just so many different techniques coming at you. She's only 23 years old. Like, what a crazy prospect for the UFC pickup. And it was interesting, the finisher. Like, she had her, I think it was her left arm, her left arm on Hannah, and Hannah kind of like this is Maria's left hand, just kind of going to the body, and Hannah just kind of like grabbed it, and she was just like, okay, and just ran around to her back, climbed up, put the hooks in, and just got it right there, and that was it, and Hannah had to tap. So on top of that, Maria, she spoke English. She had a little bit of an accent, but understandable. I think what was she from? Kurdistan? Let me look. Kazakhstan. And she knows English. She trains at ATT in the United States. Like, dude, she's definitely a big up-and-comer. Give her, it's flyweight, so there's not much of a pool there. Give her 3 more fights, then she could totally be going for a title shot, So, really excited to watch her come on the up and up. And then, let's see. Next fight was fight number 4. In order from prelims up. This is a unanimous decision. Merab, I always pronounce his last name wrong. Dwalishvili. He defeats Gustavo Lopez. Gustavo Lopez stepped in on, what was it, like 2 days notice? It wasn't long. Stepped in for Ray Borg. Hopefully everybody's, Ray Borg and his family are doing well. Ray Borg had to pull out of the fight because of family issues. So Gustavo Lopez, I want to say he was the champion for Bantamweight at Combate Americas, and I think Combate were saying they were renting him to the UFC, so I don't know if that means it was just a one-fight deal and that was it, and he's going back, or if he actually is going to continue the UFC. I'd like to see Gustavo have a full training camp. I've never seen him fight in Combate Americas. I need to go watch more Combate Americas. Of course, with COVID, there's a lot of local MMA promotions, and not even just local, but bigger MMA promotions that aren't really going. And I'd like to, Combate Americas is one of the ones I definitely like to tune into, because I don't watch them at all. So I'd like to see Gustavo, if he sticks to the UFC, I want to see him in a full training camp and get another shot. But Rob, dude, his speed, his takedown speed just looked so on point. He would strike Gustavo and then get out of the way, and Lopez just stunned. And by the time he went to look at him, Merab was already moving out of the way, and it was just you could see the speed difference. And it could have been because of late minute call, as well as not probably having a full training camp and not training just for Merab. Granted, Merab wasn't able to train for Gustavo, but it was a great fight, Merab. So I don't know if he should get. I would say maybe give him another fight or two before he gets a ranked opponent, but great fight overall. And then we're down to the first 3 fights of the card, 1, 2, and 3, and let's talk about these fights. Let's see, altogether, did they add up to 2 minutes? 59, 32, 22. So no, all 3 of these fights do not add up to 2 minutes. Let's talk about these. Third fight, KO, TKO, knee to the body and punches. Julia Avila defeats Gina Mazzani, 22 seconds in round number 1. You want to talk about coming out on fire, like your ass on fire? My wife was down here, and I was actually talking to her about Julia, and I was like, dude, I remember watching some of her just recent fights, and she looks like a beast. And I was looking at Gina, I was like, she looks familiar, and I looked at her record, and she was in the UFC, and she lost a fight. The UFC cut her. She had a fight outside the UFC. She won, and then the UFC brought her back in. That isn't typical. I'm assuming that this was maybe a late second replacement as well. Like, shit, we need somebody for Julia. Let's see. Does it actually state it down here? Let's see. Julie. I'm correct. So Julia was supposed to fight Carol Rosa. Rosa withdrew. It doesn't say when. Let me check bout page. Does it say when she withdrew? No. It just says reason Rosa withdrew. So she withdrew, and Gina came in. And again, same thing. She probably didn't have a full training camp. And Julia comes in. And you could tell they're up against the cage, and they talked about in the broadcast that knee. I think that's what happened. Shit, I can't remember that side of your body when you get hit there. And you kind of crumple up after a couple seconds. I think that's what happened. She hit her with that knee, and that knee was insane. Hit her with the knee, and you could see just she kind of like stuttered for a second, because you could see in the slow-mo when Julia was kind of striking at her, like they weren't connecting. But Gina was still kind of like pretending like it was like hitting her, like really hurting. But then finally, Julia was able to get some shots on her and then finish the fight there. So, chick's a beast. I think they were 135, so they were bantamweight. So, we definitely need more talent in bantamweight. I feel like bantamweight is kind of hurting right now because Amanda's just clean in place. So we need some new up and comers at bantamweight, and she's definitely a good one to keep an eye on. Fight number 2, KO TKO, counter right per Tapology. 32 seconds in round number 1. Tyson Nam defeats Zurak Adashev. This is the one I spoke about earlier about matchmaking. I looked at their records. I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? Tyson Nam, let's see. Today's fight would be his 30th fight, MMA professional fight, 30th. Defeated Zurak Adashev. This is dude's 5th fight. 30th fight versus 5th fight. Like what are we doing here? How does that even happen? Let's see. Is he late replacement as well? No, he's not a late replacement. So why in the fuck are we matching these two together? Like, we have a great matchmaking between Charles Jourdain and Andre Fili, but then we have this one that's 30 fights versus 5 fights. Like, it was just. I remember exactly what happened. Adashev went for a leg kick. I want to say he kicked with his. Was it his left leg? Kicked the inside of Nam's left leg, if I remember correctly. Yeah, his left leg. He basically ducked down to the right and swung up just a fucking haymaker from hell from the right hand, and that was it. And that was the end of the fight. And it was basically, it was almost just like, well, there wasn't no leg kick, but almost like what what's his face did last weekend, where Cody Garbrandt, he basically like leaned up like down against the cage and just fucking threw a crazy haymaker, almost same thing, but he just got hit left leg down and then up, and that was it. So terrible matchmaking there, but whatever. Great win for Nam, but anyways, moving on. And then the first fight in the card, KO TKO via hooks, according to Tapology. Christian Aguilera defeats Anthony Ivy. This is at 170 pounds. What I had here was, Aguilera basically, he landed a right overhand right, and I want to say it was like almost like an equilibrium shot. I don't think it hit the ears, but it hit like right here, like up and above the ear. And you saw Ivy get like kind of stunned by it for a second, and Aguilera was throwing everything else like in the kitchen sink to finish him, and things were connecting, but the overhand rights hitting that same spot was working, and I think that was the last blow that kind of finished it. and just 59 seconds, literally right under a minute to finish that in round number 1. And yeah, great fight for Aguilera. So overall, that's the entire card. Like I said, I'd say maybe a 6 or 7 out of 10 for that card, because everybody was thinking it'd be like a 0, but there was some great finishes. There was some great fights that weren't even, no finish, but it was a great fight overall. The main event wasn't too terrible. It was pretty good. We have now a new title contender. Marvin Vettori is moving up. Like, there's some good things that came out of this. So overall, I'm pretty cool with a free ESPN card. So moving on to the future, let's see. Then our next event is Blaze versus Volkov. I think they talked about that on the broadcast, and maybe I'll actually do a little preview video for that. A little, maybe quick 5-10 minute one to get ready for that event. Maybe that'll be my first time reviewing that card. And yeah, I think that's it for this video. So if you watched this the whole time, thank you very much. Again, my name is Brian Nichols. As I always say at the end of the video, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe. I appreciate all that jazz. Let me know what your favorite fight in the card was. I would say maybe favorite fight as well as favorite maybe performance, or what stood out to you. I would say favorite fight had to be Feely and Jourdain, and the performance that stood out to me had to be, I'm already forgetting her friggin' name, Maria Agapova. Has to be. Like, she stuck out to me. I didn't look to see who had what bonuses. I'll check after the video, but yeah, that's our event for today. So thanks again for watching. Have a good rest of the night, and talk to you guys next time. Peace.